draft. You still have to show up, like. Yeah. Only through here.
Projecting now. Did you power cycle the switcher to 240? Just the middle one, right? The big one. Hold up some air. Samira's back up. It's back up.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay.
welcome to the last session of the day. My name is Shannon Ralia. I'm the Student Services Librarian at American University, Washington College of Law in Washington, D.C.
And I'm Keelani Clay, and I'm the Special Projects Librarian at American University, Washington College of Law.
So we are going to talk to you today about our online advanced legal research class, kind of how we have set it up, how we have evolved over the past few years doing it, talk to you a little bit, give you a little bit of background about online legal education at American, and talk to you a little bit about our specific platform in case anyone is out there looking for a platform. We'll demo that for you a little bit and talk to you about what we have found to be the challenges and benefits of teaching advanced legal research online. And then I think our presentation will probably be on the shorter side because we are really interested in hearing from other people about what you all are doing, both in the online environment and just what you're doing with advanced legal research generally. Yeah, so we're here to steal all your ideas as well. So, and let us know if the screen goes out because it was kind of going in and out a few minutes ago, but they seem to have fixed it, but holler out if it suddenly disappears. So, to begin with, these are just kind of our basic advanced legal research course objectives when we're teaching both in the in-person environment in a traditional class and online. And I'm sure they're not super groundbreaking to any of you who teach advanced legal research or are familiar with any kind of legal research instruction. But I just want to highlight a few of them for you. As we've kind of evolved our class in the online environment, we've really started to focus on thinking critically about legal research problems, having students create efficient research plans, and applying the research to real-world legal problems. We found both in our in-person traditional course and online that those seem to be the things that students were really kind of missing out on, that they really weren't applying kind of the skills they were learning with legal research and understanding how they actually are going to use them in the real world legal environment. And we kind of have been brainstorming over the past few years about how to kind of rectify that. And I think that really dovetails with discussions in legal education generally about are we actually teaching students how to be lawyers, versus just how to think like a lawyer, that kind of thing. So we have really tried to be cognizant of that in the advanced legal research realm. And so we're going to kind of thought back and forth, and feel free to ask any questions or interject at any time. It's really going to be a super casual kind of conversation.
So, as Shannon said, we evolved kind of from a in-person course to an online course, which is still evolving itself, the model that we're using. So the in-person course was a synchronous in-person class, lectures throughout the semester. There was usually a PowerPoint there, for the students to reference later. The syllabus was arranged by subject area. We started out with the research boot camp. And actually the electronic boot camp didn't come until I was the TA for the teaching assistant for the in-person class for a number of years while I was in law school, and the electronic boot camp didn't come until maybe the second or third iteration of the class that I assisted with. So that wasn't there traditionally, but we started out with the first 3 weeks of class basically were a boot camp. We would have either Lexis or Westlaw reps come in or some special instruction from the professor about those platforms or about electronic platforms. And then after that, we talked about, of course, statutory and legislative history research, admin research, case law research, but the following weeks were all kind of subject based. So we had a business law and tax law week, or environmental law week, international law week. So it was a little bit more topical based and bibliographic kind of oriented. And then we used a number of like Cali lessons and tutorials. And the Pathfinder was the ultimate final project at the time They did do a long-form legal research problem in the middle of the semester, but the ultimate goal was to produce a Pathfinder at
Everybody
the
knows
end.
what a pathfinder, I mean, I'm assuming most people are librarians, so you know what a pathfinder is.
And, yeah, well, yeah, like a annotated research guide, basically, on a topic of their choosing. I mean, there were some other exercises in there, but that was pretty much the crux of the course. And as Shannon said, you know, librarians know what pathfinders are, but pathfinders really are not very useful for the legal practitioner. So, as we evolved to the online course, and Shannon will talk a little bit more about what we're doing now, a little bit later, that kind of, you know, caught our eye. So then the second iteration, was the online course, which we are calling Online 1.0, which was really just a replica of the in-person course. We kind of just took the syllabus and put it online, and it was more of a self-guided thing. So for instance, they still did Cali lessons, but we gave them a choice of maybe, you know, 12 to choose from, and they did 7 of the 12. And then, right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think we'll talk a little bit more in depth about online 1.0 and 2.0, but this is just to give you kind of an overview of how our class has evolved, both from, you know, the online perspective and just our kind of, you know, thinking about what's most effective, you know, to teach advanced legal research to law students. Sorry. Do you want
It's
to?
okay.
Sorry.
So, yeah, we talked about the in-person version, and this is just basically the structure. And the other thing was we were able to, because you have the synchronous classroom, you have, you know, the opportunity for lecture and to ask questions. We would also have subject experts come in to do those weeks where we were working on subjects. And that makes it a little bit different. And once again, Shannon will talk a little bit later about how some of that had to change to when we decided to move online.
Okay. So, yeah, so, this is you, sorry. I'm stealing your slide, but I just wanted to say, yeah, so a few years ago, the law school, you know, we really had no input into, you know, going into online education, but the law school decided to start offering some online courses. And those of you who deal in online education, I'm sure are familiar with ABA Standard 306. And that's kind of how, you know, how we base the structure of our class.
Right, and so Shannon will talk about 304 later, but 306 dealing with distance education. You know, there's a number of these things are administrative that really have nothing to do with us and how we form the class and how we do the class. But of course, you know, you have basically distance education means anything that's a third time separated. Definitely in our class, we do have a introductory boot camp, but most of the time the students are online and away, and we actually liked it that way because they might be working or, you know, somewhere else for the summer. And our school has a number of study abroad programs, and so many of them do those in the summer, but this is a way for them to get credit in the summer. And then the technology requirement, of course, you have to have, you know, the proper staff. So we hired a director of online education. He went through a vetting process and ended up choosing a LMS platform, I'm sorry, a platform for, which is Desire to Learn. And then you have to have regular and substantive interaction, and so we had to make sure that the platform complied to that and it had all of the bells and whistles that we needed to be able to meet that standard as well. And then the same thing for regular monitoring and communication. So Desire to Learn is the platform that we use, and it's, you know, similar to many of the other systems, Blackboard or others that you might be familiar with. Of course, there's document management and submission features. There are ways to create rubrics to attach to those assignments, so you can kind of, you know, say, does the student meet these goals or whatever, and it attaches to the assignment. And there are ways to do it automatically. We really have not, it doesn't really work for the assignments that we have currently, but there are, you know, different ways to explore later on how to use those things. And there are quizzes, they have quizzes and, you know, all the things that most of these learning systems have. And I think that it was chosen also because it does have the opportunity for Adobe Connect, and that way you can have some synchronous parts to the online course. So I've talked about this a little bit already. Meeting ABA Standard 306, these are the most important parts for us as we form the class. These things, we'll talk about them a little bit more in depth later on. But like I said, at least third separation, that's definitely or what's going on here. And basically we want, the only thing that I didn't mention already from this list is the learning outcomes, which have to be in, have to comport with Rule 302. And of course they did, only because we already had the class as a in-person class. So that part was already covered. But other than that, we had to kind of find the right systems to meet these things.
And when we say we had nothing to do with it.
No,
but,
the director of online education and
the
people
law school
above
in
our
general.
heads.
And I don't think we said this already, but Advanced Legal Research was the first online course that we offered at the Washington College of Law, and right now it is one of 2 JD courses that we offer. It's open to LLM students as well, and I think we actually had an LLM student last semester, or last summer. We have all JD students now. And then the law school also has kind of a certificate program with some international students that we're not involved in, so we really don't know very much about that. But I say that just because we really are kind of the guinea pigs for the law school in terms of figuring out what to do with online legal education, how to structure our course, and that kind of stuff. So in our 1.0 version, it started in the summer of 2013, and neither Kalani nor I taught during that summer. So we kind of inherited what had already been done when we took over the course last summer, right? And so, like Kalani said, it mirrored the in-person class, and I think it really didn't maximize the desire to learn features, mostly because we were still learning the platform and figuring out, really how to translate the in-person class into an online environment, what works and what didn't. So basically we used it kind of as a document management system. We uploaded all of our content to Desire to Learn to the platform. We used the Dropbox feature where students could submit assignments through the platform. And then we did use the chat function as well, which is just an instant messenger kind of function. And that works fairly well. I don't know if anybody else has experimented with that, but I think it works with a smaller group of people. Right now we have 9 students in Advanced Legal Research for this summer, and that's probably right around the kind of max you want for the chat feature all at once, because as you can imagine, it gets a little bit hard to manage with everybody interjecting at one time and then trying to answer questions. So. I think it also helps to be a little bit more structured, not just have a free-for-all, how's everybody doing, what's going on, with your work, but asking specific questions, what did you think of this assignment, did you have this difficulty, that kind of thing. And in the 1.0 environment, it was very self-directed. Like Kalani said, we had a lot of Cali lessons and similar tutorials, and it was just kind of module by module. I think I have a screenshot of it. And so that's what our 1.0 looked like. It was just, divided into units, pretty standard for anyone who's familiar with advanced legal research instruction. And students basically could work through it at their own speed, which I think a lot of them liked, because other than we had a mandatory in-person boot camp for the first day of class at the beginning of summer, and where we went over some advanced features of Westlaw, Lexis, and Bloomberg, talked about the platform, made sure everybody was understood how to use it, went over the syllabus and all that kind of stuff, and they saw us and we saw them, but for many of our students that was the last time we saw them for the rest of the summer. And they could kind of work through the course at their own speed, which I said I think a lot of them liked, but I think really has some drawbacks from our perspective. And then they had some, a few big assignments, like an in-depth legal research problem, and then the Pathfinder at the end. But when I took advanced legal research in law school, I did a Pathfinder. I do see some value in it, but we're really gotten away from that. And I know that that's not like a novel concept that a lot of people teaching advanced legal research are getting away from the Pathfinder, but we just found that our students really didn't get the point. They kept trying to write a research paper and with some legal analysis, and
Right.
like, no legal analysis, and so I think it just didn't. From our perspective, it was not a good way to really assess what they had learned in our course, and it wasn't a good way for us to assess how well we taught them. So that we've done away with. So really, this year for the first time, we started thinking about the course through the lens of Standard 304 for simulated courses and clinics. And I don't want to say that ours is a simulated course. It's not approved by our law school as a simulated course. Again, not really. I don't even know how we go about doing that. It's set by the registrar and people above our pay grade and that kind of. Yeah, the curriculum committee is not our deal really. But I think it's just really helpful to try to fit our course as much into a simulation course as possible, because to me that's really where the value is for law students, to actually learn how to become a lawyer, which seems to be such a novel concept sometimes. So these are the things we really focused on when we're kind of thinking about how to go into the online 2.0 environment. So really basic, it's skills-based learning. Introduction of a skill, application of the skill, hopefully leads to mastery of the skill. And so we're trying to really do that throughout the course, through all of our assignments. So let me get out my cheat sheet here. Just a second. Okay. So we have practice-oriented assignments this time. We have these kind of these mini memos that build on each other throughout the course of the semester, and this really goes to the first part of Standard 304, which is it's supposed to be reasonably similar to the experience of a lawyer advising or representing a client or engaging in other lawyering tasks in a set of facts and circumstances devised or adopted by a faculty. So for any of you who practice, when I practiced, obviously I was never given a research assignment like I got in legal research and writing, my first year in law school. That just didn't happen. Most of the time it was my boss said, hey, we need to file this motion or this response, and we're going to make 5 arguments, and I'm going to give you the 2 shitty ones, and I need you to research them and then come back to me and, come back with a coherent argument about how we can win these 2 crappy arguments. So we're not being quite that mean to our law students. We're not giving them the really crappy ones, but it's kind of that, here's a set of facts. This might not be all the information that you need, but this is the information that I'm giving you. This is, I need you to research this discrete legal issue and come back to me in a 2-page memo with something coherent that, is both well written and well researched and well cited. So we're doing that throughout the course of the semester. Excuse me. Go ahead while I'm dying.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we're doing that is, so for instance, the first week was case law research, and now we're actually moving into statutory research. We're just hoping each assignment will build on the last. So for the mini memos, we actually have the same set of facts, kind of, but we're adding things every week to kind of give them a little more oomph and to send them the way. So for instance, we want them to find one thing in the code as opposed to another thing in the regulations. But we're hoping that each week they'll kind of take what they did last week and add it to what they're doing this week. So with the statutory research assignment, which came after case law, we also wanted them to find cases that interpret the statutes that they found, just to kind of build off of those case law skills they built the week before.
Thank you. Yes, and so we're also doing a free and low-cost research assignment where, the kind of factual situation is basically your client has come to you with some questions, but he doesn't want you to spend really any money, but he wants you to, find some answers, which I think is kind of a real world application of why would I ever use free or low cost resources when I could just go to Westlaw? So we're doing that, and then we're also doing an assignment on docket research, because out of our 9 students, guess how many students knew what a docket was? So, or at least they couldn't put it into words. Maybe they'd seen one, but they certainly didn't know what it is. And we have a mixture of rising 2, 3, and 4Ls, because we have a part-time program.
And based on the reference questions we get, it is clear that our students are not familiar with dockets, and so we really hope to. Yes.
Question, credit hours, and how many of these mini memos are you doing?
So it's 2 credit hours. And we did the somebody might know, 2 out.
$750.
Is it 750? I did some math, trying to figure out what was kind of fair for an online environment, because obviously there's no face-to-face meeting every week. So, their readings, combined with some quizzes that we'll talk about in a second, combined with the exercises, I think it kind of works out to the right thing. But to answer your question, it's 4 mini memos. So it's a case law, statute, legislative history, and admin problem.
But then the comparing databases and the free and low cost research, that's also considered a mini memo. And when we say memo, we're not asking for, it's 2 pages. So.
Yeah, so nothing.
And they have about 2 weeks to do them, so it's.
Yeah, so we're at the beginning of the semester. We haven't gotten any complaints yet, but
we went to law school for things to be easy, so.
And so then to kind of in terms of face-to-face meetings, I mentioned the introductory boot camp, but then to kind of simulate this law firm environment, we're doing some Adobe Connect meetings. And so basically, this is not a one-on-one meeting with our students to say, like, I don't understand the assignment. It's to say, okay, I've read the facts that you've given me. I've done some initial research. This is the information that I think that we need to get from our client for us to, for me to, answer this question fully, that kind of thing. So to kind of try to simulate that
the way you go back to your boss and say, I don't know what to do now.
Right, but I've done my due diligence, I've looked into this is not just law students saying, I don't understand what you want from me. So, we, and actually our first meetings are scheduled for next week, so we can't tell you how they've gone. I imagine it will be kind of a learning process on both ends, and the first ones I imagine will be kind of awkward and trying to feel our way out, but hopefully by the end of the semester, they will kind of get the point that we're trying to get across. And then for each memo, we're doing a research log requirement where they just have to keep track of their research, and I don't really care what it looks like, but database search, keywords, time spent, results, that kind of thing. And we're making them keep track of their time. And I'll show you really quickly. Excuse me. The website we're using, it's just called Bill for Time, and it's it's a subscription service, but they have a free student option. So if you set up an account using an EDU email address, it's free for you. We're not getting into super technical timekeeping issues. We're not making them do conflict checks or anything like that. But just basically, adding in, so if you want to add a time entry, you go there, you put it in the client, and the matter, the service performed. So we're looking for, initial research on, problem XYZ, and time spent. And then
one of the cool things about this is that they use the ABA codes, and so it'll get the students familiar with those, but also it's kind of already key to this kind of work, and that's something else. That's another reason why we chose this particular system.
And so then they would print out or save their time and then attach it to the memo along with their research log. So let me see, do I have a no? First slide on that. And so really the reasoning behind that is I don't know if any of you have done this. I'm kind of jealous of this person. I read an article once about how she sat down individually with her students, each student in her advanced legal research class, and watched them research, and then critiqued them at the end, so she actually could see what they did step by step. And I mean, A, it's super time consuming, and B, really not possible in the online environment. So to kind of try to do that, to get really back to that standard and the supervision aspect of it, we're looking at the research log, not just to see that they did research, but to actually see what their process was and to give them feedback on that. You might think about starting here, or instead of going here for your next step, you might think about doing that. So our hope is to not just obviously critique the memo and what they ultimately found, but their actual process and how they got there, and then the time spent. I mean, are you spending 10 hours on something that should have really taken 30 minutes, that kind of thing. So again, it's not punitive in that sense. It's just really the critique and trying to help them get better. Did you have?
Well, for the long form assignment, what we did before, actually, they did have a set amount of time. So, so this is kind of more open than that. We're not, asking them to complete something in less than a certain amount of time. We just want to know what time was spent.
And we tried to get away, in at least in our first year legal research and writing class, which we as librarians don't really have any input into. They often, for the research aspect, do the treasure hunts, and come to the everybody knows about the treasure hunt. So we really try to, it's hard because you want them to show their steps, and and you need to get here, to get here, to get here. But they're just, the students never understand what the purpose is,
Right.
that it's boring, it's all those kind of things. So these little memos are kind of more open-ended. Obviously we've done the research on the back end to see what they should be getting to, but just like in the real world, I don't necessarily, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. We're looking for, a few specific cases for the case law research, but beyond that, we're looking for, novel legal arguments and that kind of thing. So hopefully it's a way of testing their legal research skills without kind of making them go on that, on the treasure hunt.
And we tried to also, the fact patterns that we chose, we tried to tailor them so that there's not so much out there in the universe, so that they're not all over the place, and we can kind of control what they find. Like she said, we want them to find certain things, and this way, by making them so, unlimited issues, we can control what they find and what we expect them to find. Because if you, just gave them, I don't know, certain seizure or something, they could go so far with that, and that could be a disaster. So we tried to make it something very specific.
And then just to continue on what else we're doing this summer, we have our library has the West Academic Study Aid subscription. So we're just assigning Olson's principles of legal research?
Yes.
Because it's free to the students, they can access it online. It just kind of works out nicely that it's also online to kind of, go with the online course, but really we chose it because it's free. And I think it's a pretty good book.
And we used the previous edition when we were in library school, so that we were familiar with the title. But just a note, there are lots of problems with signing up for West Academic, so if you decide to assign something there, you want to make sure that everybody can sign up at the same time, or, yeah.
So we're not doing weekly lectures, and obviously we could through Adobe Connect, but we decided to really keep the asynchronous format that we've had in past years, and that's mostly for the students, because most of them are working full time, taking a full summer course load, maybe both, out of town, out of the country, that kind of thing. And it ends up where you can only schedule, the lecture at like 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, and we don't want to do that either. So we've decided to stay with the asynchronous. That may change in future years, But so the way we're getting, so that they're assigned reading every week, and then they have to complete a timed quiz through the Desire to Learn platform, and it's a pretty short time frame because we just want to make sure they've already done the reading and then have gotten the salient points. And it sounds like we thought it would be a kind of a really easy, like maybe even too easy kind of thing, and then
Last week, the scores were abysmal, and so,
and they really, I mean, the questions come
Specifically
directly
come from the reading.
readings. It's not,
that's
they're not
it.
reading.
They're taking the book and, hoping they can find it while they're sitting there. And you know what, I just thought of something, and this probably is, too much of an aside for here, but there's a search feature there. So
I thought about that the other.
They're
yeah.
probably searching for, whatever word is it. I just
And they
thought
still
about
don't get
that.
the right answer.
That's-
So, and that's really, part of our assessment, assessing the course
Right.
and ourselves as instructors. Maybe this is not something to continue for next year. We'll have to see how the rest of the summer goes. So,
Well, hopefully after last week, they'll all do their reading for next week.
yeah, they'll get the message.
Yeah.
And so then we're doing the new Lexis Learn modules, which I think they're actually demoing downstairs. And a Westlaw prepare to practice tutorial that really goes on form books and docket searching and that kind of thing. And then ProQuest tutorials on legislative history. And then our contact with them is, I would say, mostly through email. And then we do have a couple chats scheduled throughout the semester, both to check in with them and then ask them specific questions about, a particular assignment for that week. And then we are always open to meet with our students. It just seems like you can't, for us, we feel like you can't require that in an online
Right.
course because that's, one of the
Advantages of
features.
taking it.
Yeah, so, but we're obviously.
Always there because we
Have
at
regular
work,
day
yeah.
jobs, so, they can stop by. So that's really how we've structured the course, this summer. And I think, really, the big overhaul of the course this summer was both to try to, better suit it to the online environment, but just, to teach a better course too.
And the whole idea of practice ready, like that's come up so many times in the past few years since this crisis that nobody wants to talk about anymore, but it really is, if you can't do the research, if you can't find the law, how can you, work as a lawyer? And so it's very important that they learn these skills to show up at the firm, and they know the difference between a regulation and a statute, which is
Many don't.
yes, or an act in a statute, which came up the other day. So that was the other reason we're really trying to, to help the overall law school education rather than just, make a better place. So.
And so I think we kind of talked about these already, but the challenges that we've really faced are, how do you simulate a law firm environment online? There's definitely part of it that is just, kind of false or contrived that we just can't get over because it's an online environment, and we're not really partners in a law firm. They're not really our associates. So I think that's probably our biggest challenge this summer, and we'll continue to figure out how to meet that. And then the asynchronous, the fact that we really don't see them very much during the semester, I think is a challenge. And then the students who are working full-time or out of town and really are on, they're taking this class because it's online, because it's an easy way for them to get some summer credit, but sometimes they're not fully committed to the course, or they think it's going to be kind of an easy. We had a student last year ask if it was like a participation kind of thing, like, well, so if I do all the work, then I'm going to get paid. Like, this is law school. And especially, given that these are all digital natives, I'm sure they had some sort of online instruction in undergrad, so it shouldn't be entirely new to them, but, law students. I think we can demo the platform, and then that's really all we have, and we would love to hear from everybody. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
it's just a, you know, a
2
regular.
credit, 8,
A
letter
through F.
grade course.
And do you ever teach it during the fall or spring semester?
So in the fall, we do the in-person course. So I taught last fall and hopefully this fall. So in that course, even because we changed it a little bit last year, Shannon and I, for the online course. So for the fall course, I did integrate some of those things. I co-teach with someone else for that course, and so I couldn't change it too much, but we did integrate some of the other kind of research things into that class as well.
And, oh, I'm sorry.
One last question, can you use D2L for all of your courses at your law school?
All the
Online
online
class.
courses, yes.
Just online?
Just online. So we actually have kind of a homegrown SharePoint system for
Our law school.
for the law school, and so most professors in an in-person class, that's where they upload the syllabus and all of that kind of stuff. And again, we don't know how D2L was chosen, you know, what the
That
requirements
was
were.
not our
but
decision at all.
We just use it for our whole school.
D2L you do?
We use it for actually the law school and for the whole university.
Oh, really?
system. So-
Really? Where?
What
school?
school?
University of Arizona.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Because the way it's been described to us, at this point, it's a licensing, you know, it's a cost issue to get more courses on it. At this point is either cost prohibitive for our school or not something that they're interested in. So I have to say it has caused a little bit of an issue because so our homegrown system is just called MyWCL, and all of our students are familiar with that from day one, and they're used to accessing information that way. And so we could email them from that system, or we could email them from D2L, or just from our regular email address. And so
They
it
don't
would-
know where to go basically to find the information that they need.
Yeah.
They're used to their syllabus being on MyWCL, and we didn't do that. We strictly are using D2L, and so I don't think anybody had a real problem with that this semester, but
in the past
Yes.
it's come up, and it just for kind of the seamlessness of it's not great, but that's where we are. So this is what the D2L platform looks like. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's the content browser on the left-hand side where you see each week, and then you can also access the full thing through content. And right now, I'm logged in through the student view. Obviously, most of the time I'm through an instructor view, but it's nice because sometimes you think, oh, I released that information class-wide, and then you actually forgot to. But if you look at it from the student view, you can
see
always
that
tell what they're able to see and not see. And then the Dropbox function is where they would actually submit their assignments, communication with
chats.
the chat, if we want to email from the class list. Discussions. We didn't talk about discussions, but we hate discussion boards. Everybody, I'm sure, feels differently about it, but Kalani and I were in library school at the same time, and we had Blackboard and used it a ton for
every class. I think it was every class we had to do discussion board postings, and it
And
was.
I just find them very contrived. I think students hate them. Not that they can't have value, but I kind of think of them as when you read the comment section of the New York Times, it's like, oh God, so we have chosen not to use the discussion feature, but obviously it's.
We have them introduce themselves in the beginning, and that's the most they have to do for the semester. So we chose the chat instead of the discussion and the quizzes to kind of replace that, because a lot of times what they'll use the discussion board for is to test whether or not you've done the reading. So we thought that the quizzes would be a better idea until last week.
Yeah, so, and then email, the pager is, I think you can, if you're on the site and a student is, they can page
It's
you.
like G-Chat for.
Yeah, and so,
D2L G-Chat.
I don't know, we've never used it, but it's there. If you want to post news that the students will be, emailed that there's a new news item, that kind of thing. And then if you wanted to form groups of some kind, you can do that as well. The evaluate function is where we go in and enter grades and those kind of things. That's where the rubrics and self-assessments would be, which I think we're hoping to move towards in a future iteration of a course. We're just not there yet. And then resources. Again, that's how you can access the content, the calendar, course checklist, that kind of thing. I don't know what the locker is.
I don't know.
And we haven't used the glossary or links, so. I think one of our, I think D2L is fine. I mean, we have been fine with it. I do think that sometimes it has features that are not really conducive to the law school environment. I think it's a platform that is used in K through 12 and then, undergrad and then grad school. So I think because they're trying to meet the needs of a huge population. But I don't know. I mean, I'm certain you could be creative with it and come up with different uses. But those are the things that we found helpful. Do we have anything? I
I
think
think that's it.
that's it. So
Questions and comments from here on?
What happens at
What happens at boot camp? Our boot camp is 6 hours. It's held usually the Saturday before classes start. This semester, actually, we had 2 boot camps, because people said they would be out of town that Saturday, so we had one the following Saturday as well. But we have Lexus, Westlaw, Bloomberg reps come in, and then Lexus, Westlaw, Bloomberg, I feel like somebody else came last year. Who else came last year?
in the past we've had did Pablo come?
Pablo from Case Text came for our in-person class this past fall, but there must have been somebody else there to cover the other hour for last semester, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who. But we give them a lunch break, and, they're basically doing advanced Lexus is what our rep will come in and do. And
for our student, I mean, I think this is kind of not great, but for our 1Ls, they don't get any Bloomberg instruction in their first year. Again, not something that we have control over. That's through their legal research and writing course. So this is their first introduction to Bloomberg and
all of its features.
dockets.
And
Yay! And then so this year we spent a lot of time both going over the platform D2L and then all of the kind of outside functions.
Right.
So teaching them how to use Bill for Time, teaching them about what a research log looks like, what that should be, getting them signed up for their Lexis Learn modules,
And we talk about like our library's resources, which the Lexis covers theirs, so we cover ours and kind of the different things, because nobody goes past our library catalog really. But we have a number of different things, and we show them how to get to those from the website.
And the Olson you're using is the full-length text rather than the nutshell?
right, the full
Yes,
length.
the full
Yes. Yeah, and every year we have like 2 students who don't have Westlaw passwords or don't have Lexis because they've only used one and not the other, and so it's both substantive instruction but also just some administrative troubleshooting, just making sure that everybody.
And it's mandatory. If you don't show up, you're dropped from the course, and you have to be there. Part of that is, to meet the requirement of seeing them at least for a certain amount of time, but also because there are things that are there, especially this semester when we went over all of the different features and how to sign up for Bill for Time and everything. If you would have missed that, because there were some snafus, if you would have missed that, you would have been stuck in the mud. So, yes.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but could you explain to me how you counted minutes for ABA purposes?
Sure. So it's 750. Is that
Yes,
right?
750.
For two
Two credits.
For 2 credits. So this is. I mean, obviously, there's no.
It was 700 per credit.
Is that?
Yeah.
Is it 700? So it's 14.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I promise I did the math right. But I think it's like.
Again, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it
I'm
was
asking
like-
a question because I don't know myself, so.
Sure. So it's kind of a back of the envelope kind of thing. So I looked at all of the readings that we were going to assign, and it's it's not reading conflict of law. It's kind of really in depth kind of stuff. So looked at how long I thought it would take them to do the readings and the quizzes, and then any time spent on the actual substantive assignments, and calculated that to come up to the 1,400. And so we actually we had a few more assignments scheduled than that, but kind of decided that that really went above the 2 credit, requirement. So again, it's all a guesstimate, and it's something that really we should be kind of checking in with students about, how
Is
long
this
is it
too
taking
much?
you to do. But that's how, because there's really no way. And then plus I should add the boot camp at the beginning,
Right.
because that's 6 hours long. So that's easy to tabulate.
Back on that same topic, because I do teach online, it is, for a 2 credit, it's 1,400 minutes of class time. And the ABA is starting to get honest that for every hour in class, you should spend 2 hours outside class.
Okay.
So for
But there's no actual requirement on that, is that right?
Oh, yes, there is.
No, say that again?
310.
Standard 310,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
it is 2 hours outside of class, and there's a recent guidance memo from the ABA
Yeah.
for our research and writing classes,
Mm.
because we don't have a week 15 exam, but we still have to have 15 weeks worth of time,
Oh,
which
right.
bumps our 1,400 minutes up now
Oh,
too.
got it.
right.
Yeah.
And since I teach my advanced legal research, which is 2 credits, online in a 7-week summer class,
Mhm.
oh boy. But, because mine's all asynchronous.
Uh-huh.
And so I figure, and it's all like Polycom recordings, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I figure out the number of minutes that I do of recordings.
Mhm.
That's my class time. And then they have out-of-class assignments that pretty much should equal the 2 hours. But the ABA is really coming down on us on that.
Okay.
So just throwing that
Well,
out.
thank you.
We'll tell Billy Joe, Rebecca.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Okay, yeah, call her by all means, oh my God.
And when they say hour, do they mean 15 minutes?
They mean minutes, they're counting minutes. So, you've got 1 credit is 70 minutes in class. And
But
2,
you're making 700 minutes of instruction
700
in
minutes, yeah.
video, or
yeah,
do you count, like discussion boards at all?
I count that as out of class,
Out of class, okay.
yeah. No, I record a lot,
You make 700 minutes in content.
yeah, I do. It's a lot.
That's a lot of recording.
It is. Fortunately, if I do it right, I don't always do it right, okay? I did a 14-week class in spring semester and and re-recorded all of my videos and referenced, well, we're splitting this into 2 weeks, so next week we're gonna look at X. I had to re-record them again for the summer.
Oh, no.
That,
No.
bad.
And actually, again, because this happened before we took over the course, that could actually be the reasoning behind the boot camp at the beginning
Right.
to
To get all of those hours
to get a
in.
lot of the hours to begin with. Yeah.
So your class is 7 weeks as well?
No,
Ours
it's,
is a bit long. I think our
Actually,
summer semester
we can
is
tell you.
10 weeks.
yes. It is, yeah,
It just-
10 weeks. Mhm.
They just gave us 7.
Yeah.
And that actually is hard to jam all of that into.
It is hard,
Yeah.
trust me.
Anybody, what is everybody else doing? I would love to hear if anybody else is anybody else teaching online or wants to or anything? Yeah.
I'm from Lewis and Clark. We're just dipping into it. So we had the last 2 summers done online classes. There's one going on right now. Ours are 2 weeks.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How many credits?
That one's a 2 credit. And so, but we pre-record all the lectures.
Okay.
And so the students watch all of those and then have synchronous discussions, and then asynchronous online chats,
Mhm.
and then all the readings, and so, and we use Moodle,
Oh,
and
wow,
so
yeah,
do it all
we
with
got that
Moodle.
In the one this morning.
Which, so, I
What
mean, it took us
courses?
a while to figure it all out.
Yeah.
What kind of courses are they?
Well, they're environmental law, so for instance, this is a 2-week, 2-credit course on wetlands, taught by one of our top professors, and it is absolutely fabulous.
And it's a JD
amazing.
course?
It's a JD course.
And what are the assessments, like how do you, is there a final exam or?
Yeah, there's a final exam, we use
Wow.
ExamSoft,
Okay.
or they do a take-home, sometimes they do a take-home. But it's a wonderful, you know, delivery method for some kinds of classes, amazing discussions. The students do a lot of outside research and thinking and ask great questions. It's incredible access to the professor. So we're not heading towards an all online degree or anything, but for some kinds of things, I think it's really wonderful.
And this is the second summer
Yeah,
that
last
you
year
did?
we did renewable energy and policy.
And students liked it and
Yeah,
it got good
They did,
feedback?
they liked
Oh,
it.
that's so interesting,
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
short ones like that.
Because we could just do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're doing it at UGA, dipping our toes in as well,
Uh-huh.
for the summer primarily. And we have doubled summer enrollment with offering the online courses, which is great, because our summer enrollment was circling the drain.
Uh-huh.
And we're going in the right direction now. They're doing professionalism, ethics, and it's got about 50 students in it. And then the other courses are document drafting kinds of courses. And then we hope to offer advanced legal research next summer because we wanted to kind of see how this went. One of the big things was making that 700 minutes of content, and they spent a tremendous amount of time recording those lectures and doing synchronous chats. Some of them are doing it totally asynchronous, some of them are splitting. They do a little bit of synchronous chatting together, and then.
And it's a full summer course, the length of the summer session?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
they did it for the full.
Uh-huh.
Did a lot of work for them, the people that took it on.
Yeah, I think, I guess once you kind of get it going, it's easier, but that first time, I think.
They all look like they have like deer in the headlights
Yeah.
for weeks.
And a lot of law professors, I think, are not super techy,
Yes.
so, it's kind of a different environment for them, and, I know that there has been some hesitancy at our school.
Our university uses D2L.
Uh-huh.
They're also using Zoom a tremendous amount. The 50-person class uses Zoom very effectively.
And is that like Adobe Connect, it's just
Yes.
for
Only
a,
the whole, it's a lighter bandwidth,
Uh-huh.
so it can accommodate people better, much less technical problems. The license wasn't that terribly expensive.
and it's, you're actually able to participate, even
Yes.
with a large group of people like that? Uh-huh. Oh, that's great.
Is everybody who's teaching online doing it only in the summer? Is anybody teaching online during the regular semester?
We offered one during the semester,
Right.
this last spring.
It was a test run.
And I have you heard feedback about that one?
Yeah, they thought it went well.
So they're probably doing.
It's a little easier to do it online during the semester because you can space it out. You don't have to
14 weeks.
throw so much content into each week. Yeah, we've been teaching advanced legal research. A couple of the other librarians teach it during the regular semester. And we are doing regular advanced legal research and topic specific. Juanita Scroggs does one semester of international law and one semester of environmental law, advanced legal research, environmental advanced legal research.
Are those one credit courses or?
Two.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there are standard twos. Yeah, I'm in Stetson, as you know. Yeah. We do a lot of JD courses, not just advanced legal research during the regular school year and the summer. Media law, done environmental law, and not just advanced legal research. There's a whole host of them.
And they've been popular with
Oh,
students?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it seems, I again, don't really know the policy, but it seems for right now at our school, they're comfortable with summer courses, but not fall or spring and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we actually have two recording studios in the law school
Okay.
for these. We've got a green screen using a TriCaster, and that primarily is for our online LLM advocacy and a lot of other bits and pieces that go into classes, and then just a more traditional studio that we use for the advancing research that I teach in the regular JD courses.
We've applied for a grant to set up a recording studio.
Yeah.
For the same
You
reason.
feel Come visit. Yes, our IT and media services just did a remodel and it really is quite nice.
What school are you from?
Stetson University, College of Law.
Anybody else have comments? No? Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and the screen didn't fall, so that's good. What? No, you're not. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter.
I never do.
I know. I'm sure.
But it's the responsible kids.
It's from when they first
Came out and they would, I've had them crash before, but it's just, I don't know.
My first semester in law school, it was back when, typed and then went outside to, like they had printers and that. And I took the USB out of my computer, came apart like a plastic cable. And it was fine, but I was like, oh my God!
See, I never really saved stuff on them that was important. I always emoted to myself because back from, when floppy disks were the thing, and I lost so many things on so many floppy disks over the years that I just learned to, once we had email, but I learned to email to myself.
And then students, well, I didn't have to do that anymore. When I was taking 3 credit courses, they should have been, and I didn't. And the result was DOE. And so the APA is starting to, they know that they have to tighten up. So that's yeah, and make it work, sure. I like, I love it. I have a fun during the summer because I have people like that. I set it up right, and I do. And I close contact with my students as long as I will. That's right. Yeah, you said it. No, that's right. I know. I can't keep track. She said I can see why that was. I said, it's harder to teach online than it is to teach face-to-face. Yeah, right. Well, I just, my daughter got 2 of her degrees online, and I did mine. I've taken some courses, well, blended, but more online.
Yeah.
You know, I found that,
Good luck, Charlie.
well, when they were cleaning out the large office, I was arching in that day. When I cleaned out stuff from the large office, looking for books we were moving, was like, right. What was that? I can't tell you. Paper towels I found.
No, you would not surprise me.
And anyway, I was like, I didn't know, I think it's a surprise.
Yeah, your thing was pretty good.
Oh, that's right, I sure.
That's why I'm saying nothing would surprise me. She said that she didn't have to stay. I was kind of surprised about it.
Georgia Tech had already prepaid, but I'm gonna be back down here for.
Well, I do. That's a problem. Well, in some way, the best thing is that. I got to like roll around and really start changing. Yeah. Well, nobody listened for the longest time. A lot of us would say they're not going to be prepared. But now you really have to.
It's sort of like that.
And it's just different. I mean, you still go to work doing it, but.
Yeah. Pretending like they're on TV. Yeah, I was just thinking, you guys get to go to so many good conferences because you're sort of centrally located to everything that's been happening recently. Oh, well, there is some of that, yes. That's kind of nice. Yeah. Well, and there's a, and there's a real value.
But so he lives here now.
I'll say that's another thing, I'm pretty limited, it's either this or it's not. The only reason I don't go to
I didn't know that I'm getting any benefit from this friendship.
I know. Yeah, but if it hadn't been for that, I have to miss it. I love Kelly. I think, yeah, I have that little tech edge to it that I think still,
I mean, I think it is very simple.
I wouldn't normally do that. I don't mind staring because it was Denver. Yeah.
And but then so Meredith Evans, who's part of the library, was a fellow, and the ARL Leadership Fellows, and
I'm looking forward to it. I actually never went there when I was the whole time.
it's not something that ever occurs to me, but I did go to the